Alright everyone, so this is the mini wheel that I throw with to make my miniature pottery. I just want to do a real quick tutorial to show you all what I use and my process. What I usually have are some makeshift splash pans like you would normally see on a larger wheel, but I'm going to forego these during this video so you can get a better view of me working on this, this miniature. And what I'm going to use, I am going to use a paintbrush, primarily the end of the paintbrush. I usually like to use something that's plastic, but today I'll just be using a normal wooden paintbrush, and this will be to help me open up my piece. I also have this little carving tool, not really a carving tool, but I use it to shape my piece, and this is something that I would use really more like a trimming tool. And I use something larger like this on my bigger pieces too. So that, and I also have a needle tool handy in case I need to trim off the top of my piece at all. So, alright. What I have here is just a small ball of clay, and I'm going to press that on the center of my piece. You'll probably notice that I've also put a towel down in the background. This is just to catch anything that splashes around since I don't have my makeshift splash pans. And it's just to help catch any excess, and also for wiping my hands. And I also have a little bit of water right here. Okay, let's get started. So I'm gonna center this, press it down, and turn my wheel on as high as it'll go. I'm gonna get the tips of my fingers wet, my little bowl of water over here, and I'm just gonna start by centering this small piece of clay right here. And I'm just using my hands to bring the piece up and down a few times. You can also see how this is already splashing everywhere since I don't have my little makeshift splash pans. Alright. Once I feel like that's centered enough, I'm going to turn my wheel down at about half, and this is what you would normally do when you're throwing as well. And I'm going to use the end of my paintbrush here. I'm going to get it wet, and I'm just going to open up that piece a little bit, and I'm going to put a little bit of water in, and again I'm just opening up my piece. So what I'm doing is I'm just gently pressing in, not going all the way to the bottom, and I'm pushing the sides out. And I just keep getting it wet. Now I'm just kind of compressing the bottom here, making sure that I keep my piece wet. There we go. And I don't want to go too far down because I don't want my bottom to rip off. So I'm going to make my wheel go a little bit slower. And now I don't have any particular shape in mind usually when I throw miniatures because I throw so many at a time. I just kind of do this for fun. So I'm just going to push the bottom in a little bit. And if your wheel is going, if you notice that it's stopping, you're putting too much pressure on the wheel, try to keep the pressure on the piece. And nothing too hard. You don't need a really hard pressure. But if you notice that your piece is stopping, then you don't have the wheel speed fast enough, and you can just very gently bump that up a little bit. Again, I'm just kind of pushing in the bottom, and I'm bringing up the top. Now this is not how you would normally throw a bigger piece, but I found a technique that works for me. And you know, when you're playing around with your pottery, you may find a technique that works better for you, and that's great. So if you see me doing something and you're like, well, you know, I wouldn't do it that way, or I would try something different, then great, awesome. I definitely want you to try doing things your own way, but if you need a little help, or you just want to see how I make my miniatures, then also awesome, and glad to have you here watching this video. So this is all I'm doing. Just kind of making a tall neck on this piece, and just for fun, I'm just going to open up the top a little bit, just to give it a little bit of shape. There we go. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the speed down again, and this is where this tool comes in handy. And I'm just going to start small, and I'm just going to trim off the excess, and I'll just either plop it to the side or just put it in where my water is, because I can add this later to my larger throwing bucket. Alright. And you of course can put more water on the piece if you think that'll help. I find it to be helpful. And I just very gently, very gently take some excess off. And you'll notice it kind of flies off a little bit too. That can happen. And this is where the actual brush part comes in handy. You can shape your piece a little bit. Now I've done this a lot, so this may be a little fast. If you want to go slower, take it a lot slower. Feel free to. But if you feel confident enough going this speed or even a faster speed, whatever again works for you is great. I really enjoy making miniatures. There's something just so fun and and whimsical about them. There we go. And don't be discouraged if you go to throw and all of a sudden this flies off your wheel. I've had that happen before, but you see how quick it and pretty easy it was to make something like this. It takes a lot of practice and a lot of time, but once you get the hang of something, it's very enjoyable. Almost done with this. I'm going to put the speed down a little bit lower, and I'm going to play the top of this piece just to make it a little more open, a little more smooth inside. Alright. I think that'll just about do it for this piece at least. I'm gonna clean up the bottom a little bit more. Use my paintbrush to go in and smooth it out. And there we go. Ta-da! And that is how I throw a miniature. And what I'll do now is I can do one of two things. I can let it dry a little bit on the mini wheel here. What I usually do is I take my hair dryer though, and I'll put it on a low spin, just like this. Just turn it back on, just for very, very low spin, and I'll put my hair dryer on it for a little bit, for about a minute or so, and then I'm able to scoop this up with a metal rib tool, and then I'll place it off to the side, and I can start a new one. Or if you're feeling adventurous with the wheel off, you can just slide the piece off and place it somewhere safe until you're ready to clean up the bottom and then fire it. So Alright, I really hope you enjoyed watching this video. There's our little piece that we just made. Everyone have a wonderful day.